Good morning. We'd like to welcome you to another edition of the Sunday School Review. This week's Sunday School lesson is entitled Faith and Trust, and it's taken from Proverbs, the 3rd chapter, verses 1 through 8. Now, Proverbs is mostly written by Solomon, and Solomon was the 3rd king of Israel, the son of David, and he was responsible for the building of the temple in Jerusalem, also known as Solomon's temple. Now, Solomon sought after God, and God allowed him to request whatsoever he will. And he asked for wisdom. And God was impressed with his request. And not only that he gave him wisdom, but God also gave him riches, power, and peace. Now, and people came from all over the world, all nations came to hear the wisdom of Solomon. Now, as we know, later in life, Solomon forsook his own wisdom and understanding. Now, the book of Solomon contains wise sayings about practical living, that is, living righteous. And we know this, that true knowledge and wisdom flows from God. That is godly wisdom. Now, there is such a thing as worldly wisdom, and you cannot deny that there is a lot of worldly wisdom. The things that we have are the computer, the internet, the space exploration, the inventions. That's man's wisdom, a worldly wisdom. But the wisdom of God far exceeds man's wisdom. In other words, if man has the wisdom that it has, if you look back the past 50 or even 10 years, you'll see how advanced worldly wisdom or man's wisdom is. But God's wisdom is much more advanced than worldly wisdom. As I said, there is worldly wisdom, but we are talking about godly wisdom, and that is what Solomon is talking about, and that's what we want to seek. And again, I said seek. Solomon wasn't born with this wisdom. He sought God for it. He requested of it. And the scripture tells us, if any man lack wisdom, ask God. So you have to seek wisdom. As a matter of fact, even worldly wisdom, you have to seek after worldly wisdom. Okay, they don't just give you PhDs. Now, there's honorary degrees, yes, but it's based on what you have accomplished, however. But they don't just give you PhDs at birth. You have to work for it. You have to seek. But God wisdom the same way. You have to seek for godly wisdom as well. Okay. So and the book of Proverbs contains, as I said, is talking about the true knowledge of God, true wisdom and knowledge. And that only true wisdom and knowledge only flows from God. And the first chapter of Proverbs, our lesson starts in chapter 3 of Proverbs. But chapter 1 of Proverbs tells us the purpose of the book of Proverbs. And let's read a couple of verses there. Verses 1 through 4 actually tells us the purpose. Let's do verse 2. Well, let's read one. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. We said that. Okay. He was the son of David, the king of Israel. Okay. The verse 2. This is the purpose of a proverb. To know wisdom and instructions, to perceive the words of understanding. This is the purpose of Proverbs. Verse 3, to receive instructions of wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity. Verse 4, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man, knowledge and discretion. So this is the purpose of the book of Proverbs. Okay, it's talking about righteous living, or practical. It's instructions in practical living righteously and trust in God. Okay, so there are two outlines in our lesson today. The first outline is verses 1 through 4 of the 3rd chapter of Proverbs, and it's wake up and pay attention. The second outline is verses 5 through 8, and it is behave wisely. There's verses 5 through 8 of the 3rd chapter of Proverbs. First outline is wake up and pay attention, verse 1 through 4. Second outline is behave wisely, verses 5 through 8. Let's go to the third chapter of the book of Proverbs here. Now, this is as instructions like from father to son. Instructions in righteousness and practical living. Okay, let's read verse 1. My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. Don't forget the commandment. Don't forget my law. Okay, keep them. Don't forget them. Verse 1. Verse 2. And verse 2 tells us the benefits or the blessings that this wisdom brings. That is, the benefits of keeping the law, the benefits of keeping the commandment. These are some of the benefits. And verse 2, for length of days, long life, and peace shall they add to thee. So there are blessings in keeping the commandments of God. There are blessings. In other words, you're not just keeping them for naught. There are blessings, there are benefits in keeping the commandments, keeping the laws of God, okay? That's verse 2. Verse 3, it says, let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy necks, write them upon the table of thine heart. In other words, you want to keep the laws and commandments with you always. It says, bind them about their neck. Okay, write them in the tablets of thine heart. And we're talking about godly living. In other words, don't abandon godly living. Don't, as one commercial said, never leave home without it. I think they were talking about American Express credit card, I believe it was. Never leave home without it. So this is what it said. Never be without these attributes. Let mercy and truth, let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Always keep them with you. In other words, never leave home without it. So that's verse 3. Verse 4 said, so shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. So verse 1 through 3, don't forget the commandments. Verse 1, there are benefits, length of days, long life, and peace. Let not mercy and truth forsake. Don't leave them at home. Never leave home without them. Then, so verse 4 says, so shalt thou, then you will find favor. If you do these things, in other words, if you do 1, 2, and 3, that is verse 1, verse 2, verse 3. If you do those things, then it's like the if then. If you do those things, then says, so shall thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. So if you want to find favor in the sight of God and man, keep his commandments. That's it. If you want to find favor in the sight of God and man, keep the commandments of God. That's the first outline. Wake up and pay attention. Do 1, 2, and 3, that is verse 1, 2, and 3. If you do those things, then, as verse 4 says, so shall thou find favor. Then you will find favor with God and man. Let's go now to our second outline, which says behave wisely. And that's verse 5 through 8. Verse 5 and 6. We read verse 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Now, verse 5 and 6, these two verses are the most memorized verse of Proverbs. Verse 5 and 6 is the most memorized verse of Proverbs. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, lean not to thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. The most recognized two verses in all of Proverbs. So verse 5 says, let's explain what is the meaning of this verse. What is the meaning? Let's talk about what is the meaning of verse 5 in Proverbs 3. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. What you want to do is seek God. Trust in him. Don't trust in your flawed instinct. Our instincts, our impressions of what is right is flawed. We are flawed creatures, okay? We are. So don't trust in our flawed or feeble intentions. Don't trust in ours, because we're flawed. We're a flawed instrument. So says trust in the Lord, not our own, because our own is not perfect. We are flawed creatures. So don't trust in our instincts. Trust in God. Okay, ours are not reliable, or you might say ours are not 100% reliable. Okay, God is all knowing. We're not all knowing. God is all knowing, and all knowing is better than not being partial knowing. Well, I might say, well, I'm 70%. I'm 70% knowing. Well, all knowing is better than 70% or even 99%, and we're not even close to that. So don't trust in our own instincts, because they are feeble, they are flawed. Trust in God, not our understanding. Our understanding is limited. We have limited knowledge, limited understanding, limited everything. Okay, so don't trust in ours. Not reliable. And verse 6, in all thy ways. The first four words that in all your ways, in everything you do, look to God. Seek God in all we do. Seek him. Don't trust our flawed instincts, our feeble instinct. Don't trust our. In all that we do, seek him, acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path, as verse 6 tells us. Verse 7, it says, be not wise in our own understanding. In other words, don't trust our understanding because it's limited. As I said, our knowledge and understanding is limited. Be not wise in our understanding. Fear the Lord, okay? Put our trust in God. It's like saying, well, I'm going to trust my own instincts. I might say that as opposed to trusting somebody else's instincts, but I'm not going to say that in relation to God. Well, I'm going to trust my own instincts. I'm not going to trust God. I'm going to trust my own instincts. No. Verse 7 says, fear the Lord. Put your trust in God. As they say, they might say, well, I got my money on this person. I got my money on God. That's where I'm banking. I'm not putting my trust in my own self because my instincts are flawed. I'm not going to put my trust in you either because your instincts are flawed likewise. You don't have all wisdom and understanding. Only God. God has your knowledge is limited just like mine. Okay. So why do I put my trust in somebody else but God? So verse 7 said, be not wise in your own eyes, because as one scripture said, we see through a glass darkly, dimly. Don't put your trust in your own instincts. Put your trust in God. Fear God, fear the Lord, and depart from evil. Verse 8, which is our last verse here. It shall be health to thy navel, and marrow to thy bones. In other words, here is the blessing. Again, if you do these things, if you don't lean to your own understanding, if you put your trust in God, then if you do these things, then verse 8, it shall be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bone. In other words, you will be blessed. That's the lesson really in a nutshell. If you keep his commandments, don't lean to your own understanding, but put your trust in God, then you will be blessed. And that's really our lesson in a nutshell. Keep his commandments. Don't trust in your own instincts because they are flawed, but trust in God because he has all wisdom and understanding. And if you do this, then you will be blessed. And that's our lesson. We'd like to thank you for watching. We ask you to join us next week for another edition of the Sunday School Review. Thank you.